What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea, and once again we meet at a blank space. Today we're going to talk about my top 5 most used pens of 2022. They're not necessarily my favorite, but they're the ones that, to be fair, are actually my favorites. And that I've used the most throughout the year of 2022. So I have 5 of those and then 2 honorable mentions that we shall get into. These 5 are in no particular order because I don't actually know which ones specifically I have used more so than not, but these are the ones that are pretty much always in my rotation. And when I go to ink up a new pen, I usually choose one of these 5. I do have full reviews of each and every pen. So if you want to see them more in detail, do check out my channel because I have done that. But let's get started. So I teased one pen on my Instagram, link in the description below, a couple days ago, and that is this pen right here. This is the Pilot Custom 912 with the FA nib. I know a lot of people hate that I keep the stickers on my Pilot pens. I don't know why. I really don't. For whatever reason, I just like it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. So it has an FA nib and an ebonite feed. It comes with a plastic feed, typically. I purchased this ebonite feed from nibsmith.com, but these are made specifically for the Pilot Custom 912, and it makes a huge difference. I very much liked this pen before. Oh, I got ink everywhere. Okay. That's a nice surprise. Well, I got distracted now by that ink because now I'm looking everywhere else being like, did I get it anywhere else? But I don't think so. It comes with a plastic feed. I purchased this. Like I said, it's made specifically for the 912. I liked the pen before it had the ebonite feed, but I absolutely love and obsessed with it now that it does. It is currently inked up, although it doesn't have a ton left, with Troublemaker Petrichor. This is a great pen to put in like shading inks, inks that are a bit drier, and monochromatic inks like Petrichor or Sailor 224, that kind of stuff, because it is so wet. Sits very nicely in my hand, very comfortable, not too heavy. You can post if you want to, I don't. Very understated. But I love it, and I don't think since I've purchased this pen well over a year ago now, a couple years ago I think, it has never not been inked, and that's saying something. So that's pen number 1. Next in line, bam! This is the Leonardo Momento Zero, Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero, if you want to get technical with it. This is their 2022 Perugna, if you want to call it that, just the little lines here. The spaghetti resin with the rose gold finish. This has a extra fine nib, and it is a steel nib. I purchased this from Emmy over at Penventure. It's a ABS plastic. And he tuned it for me, so it's super wet. It does come with a standard international converter that is Leonardo branded. And it does also have a cool little feature at the back end if you did not want to take off the entire body to fill up the pen. I have never used it, to be fair, because I prefer to see the cartridge when I'm filling. This fits, again, extraordinarily well in my hand. Perfect weight, very nice balance. You can kind of post if you want to. I don't. And it just fits very nicely. I love the grip section. It does kind of look weird, admittedly, but I like it. It's very comfortable. The threads are super shallow, so you don't have any impedance. I like to have this inked up with Diamine Writer's Blood, and it is just stunning. Absolutely love it. Big thanks to Emmy for tuning this for me, because she's beautiful. She's beautiful, Clark. Next pen, none of you will be surprised if you watch my content frequently, and that is the Kaweco Sport. So I love the Kaweco Sport, specifically this one. I don't know what it is about this one in particular. This is their part of their natural frosted line in coconut. This is the only pen that I do use posted, because it's just much more comfortable that way. It's a very light pen. You basically don't feel anything in here. I don't know. I like the way that it feels in my hand. This one has a fine steel nib. I have adjusted this to make it more wet, just because Kaweco tends to be a bit drier of an ink. But so I adjusted that. But other than that, haven't really done much. I do have the converter in here. It holds less than the cartridge, but it's way more convenient to fill up. And currently I have it inked with Diamine Polar Glow. So now that I've adjusted to make it more wet, it writes very, very well, just the way that I want it. I like that it's little. I like that it's just, I don't know. I love the sounds. I don't know. This just has, I can't ever really explain why I like this pen so much. I just do. So it is decidedly in my top 5. And then I have one more pilot, and that is my custom 823, specifically with the amber finish. I do also have the smoke finish, but I use this one significantly more. This one I have actually taken off the stickers. I don't know why either, but I do. I tend to have Mont Blanc James Purdy & Sons single malt in this. It has a gold nib, plastic feed, and it is a medium nib. My smoke has a fine nib, which perhaps is why I don't use it as much, because the fine nib is very, very, very fine. This is a vacuum filling pen. It holds a ton of ink, an absolute ton, which is why when I do have it inked up, which to be fair is fairly often, I have it with one of my favorite inks. Do check out the video that posted yesterday for my top 5 inks, most used inks, if you want to actually check out this ink and the ink that I normally keep in here. So spoilers. But I like to keep that in here because then I know I love the ink, and it's always ready to go for me. So Mont Blanc James Purdy & Son just fits nicely in here. But if you have watched my top 5 inks, you know that there's one that's going to be competing for James Purdy & Son that I've yet to put into this pen, but it will certainly go in next. It is a little bit heavier than the other 3 here and the one that I haven't gotten to yet, most likely because of the metal rod and the metal components up here, but not by a whole lot. You can post if you wish to, but I don't. It's perfectly long enough for me. I do like the added weight. It's very smooth nib, very nice and juicy. I like it quite a bit. So top 5 material. And then lastly, in the top 5, before we get to the 2 honorable mentions, and you're not probably going to be surprised, is my Bennu Euphoria. This was the first first Bennu pen that I ever used. Sorry, I just shook the camera. And now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I have a ton of Bennu pens. This one was the first one that I ever bought. This is the Bourbon Euphoria. And it blew every single expectation I had of this pen out of the water. Like, dramatically out of the water. I was gobsmacked. I'm still gobsmacked when I think about it. I really like the clip on this one. And it's a rocker clip, and the fact that you can, come on, focus. Well, the clip sits inside the cap. so that it's perfectly flush. I adore it. I do like the super glitteriness of it. It's got a really long grip section, which is nice. You can post it, but holy smokes, I wouldn't do it. And it doesn't post super securely, but it does post if you want to. But it's super long. It is light. It has a ABS plastic feed. This is a fine nib steel pen. And it comes with an international standard converter. I usually keep KWZ honey in here, which I can already smell just by opening it because I do ink it up in there quite often. But I just adore it. This is probably one of my actual best writers. To be fair, actually, all of these are, which is probably why they're in my top 5. It's so smooth, so wet. I did not tune it at all. It's just factory fresh. And I have, how many do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 Bennu pens. All of them factory fresh, right? Unbelievably well. Unbelievably well. So 10 out of 10 recommend all of these pens. It is certainly a beefy pen. I just picked up the Jinhao X 159. And that's like a Montblanc 149 size. And look, I mean, this is a big pen. But I absolutely adore it. So these are my top 5. To be fair, I mean, I know I said they weren't necessarily my favorites, but really they pretty much are. These are the ones I use the most often this year. And I just adore every single one of them. So I have 2 gold nib pens and 3 steel nib pens, and they all write like a dreamboat. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, well then, if these pens are so dope, what are your honorable mentions? Well, they're pens that I don't have inked up as often as these, but I do still think extraordinarily highly of them. They're just slightly more circumstantial than these. And one of them is what used to actually appear in the top 5 every single year for many years. And that is my Platinum Century 3776 in chartreuse blue. This was actually the first gold nib pen I ever bought. Has a fine nib, plastic feed, and it writes amazing. It is super fine. It does have a proprietary cartridge, writes super fine. I like to put Diatramentis Cola in here, and it's almost the only ink that I ever put in here, which is why this is now sort of conditional pen in the sense of I absolutely love it. I think it belongs in a top 5. But because now I really only tend to, whatever reason, and I can't explain it, but I only tend to put 1 ink in here, I don't use it as often because I'm just not using that ink as often, to be fair. But it fits really nicely in my hand, posts really nicely. Again, I don't post, but you can. It's a very fine nib. Gives you a much more toothier experience than any of these do. This is in fact the most toothy pen that I have, but I still adore it. I absolutely love the heart shape breather hole. And it does give me the warm and fuzzies when I use this pen, probably because it is my first gold nib pen. All right, so the last honorable mention is actually the first pen that I ever used that had a custom nib. It is a piston filler, and it is the Aurora Optima in burgundy, I think is the name. Yeah, just burgundy. This I bought from nibsmith.com. I ordered a medium nib, I ordered a fine nib, but he didn't have any. So he said, I have medium, but I can grind it down to a fine if you want. And I said, let's actually compromise. So it's marked medium, but he did grind it to be a medium fine. It does have an ebonite feed, a red ebonite feed. It is a 14 karat gold nib. Piston filler with the Aurora Lloyd material, which is absolutely stunning. Fits very nicely in my hand. Posts, again, very securely if you wish. The grip section is huge. I love the ink window, and I really like the added feature that you can use the pen posted and unposted with the plunger all the way down, because that plunger mechanism will force the last little bit of ink into the feed here, this sort of black stem. So you can use all of the ink that's in here, which in some piston fills you can't, because that stem, if the ink doesn't go over top of the stem, then it doesn't go in. That's really only useful for me when I have samples, because if I have a bottle, I'll just refill it. But it's a really good one, and it's super easy to clean. You can just unscrew the nib unit, flush it out with a syringe, flush this part out with a bulb syringe, and you're good to go. The reason why it's an honorable mention is just quite simply because these 5 beat it out. I just used these more. With the exception of the Custom 823, they're all cartridge converters, and that is really my preference these days. I used to be a big piston fill person, but I'm leaning back towards cartridge converter, and for that reason, I have veered away a little bit. Plus, if you notice, these are all pretty fine nibbed pens, and this one is definitely beefier, so I have to be in the mood for a broader nib. So that, my friends, I tried to be super quick in this video so that it's not too long for you guys, but that is my top 5 fountain pens I have used the most this year, and my 2 honorable mentions. Let me know in the comment section down below what pens you used for the most part of 2022, and if you're down there, I mean, you could be super awesome and smash the like button, for the algorithm. And if you're down there anyways, check out the description if you want to look at my Instagram and my Patreon account. If you take a look at the Patreon, you can help support me and what I do on this channel. But regardless, as always, I appreciate you just watching my content, and I will see you next time. Bye. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. Just kidding, that's the beginning. It is time for our Patreon crew shout out. This was filmed as of December 1st, so if you don't see your name, don't fret. I will update it as soon as I possibly can. My 2 ultimate humans, Daniel Rodney and Comp Dave, and all my VIPs, Susan, McCall Bennett Lawrence, Karen Epstein, Gretchen Peters, Carol Lowry, Michael Simon, Subi1 Kenobi, Catherine Molina, Weilei Chang, Brian Law, Bill Pemberton, Lucas Bell, Robert Myers, Marissa Calvo, Eric Lineman, Stephen Baldwin, DigitalTent.tech, Bobby A. Bailey, Bass, Joan Worthman, Luna Wolf Games, Aaron C., and Glenn Kelly. You guys make it super, super, super possible for me to keep making these videos. No matter what tier you're in, I thank you for supporting me on Patreon, especially those of you who've been with me since the beginning. You mean more to me than you could possibly ever know. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.